Happy days! My 2 new reels have arrived from Amazon today. So as some of you might know, these are baitcaster reels, the Daiwa LEXA series, very well known baitcasters. And what makes these special is that they can be used for fresh and saltwater fishing. So gone are the days that saltwater fishermen look down on this class of reel, as they become very competent in their own right. They have solidly constructed bodies, they are resistant to corrosion, and they have a ton of drag packed into a very small body. This makes them very attractive to fishermen wanting to spend a whole day casting spoons, doing vertical or slope edge jigging without putting too much weight on your hands. So what we have here is the LEXA HD 400 XSP, which has been around for a couple of years now. And then the newer version, the LEXA TW400B. See, a little bit of a smaller box. Let me just have a look at the back there. Alright, that's the old school one. And the newer one here. Okay. So there's almost $100 difference between these two reels, and we'll get into why that is in a couple of seconds. I bought both of these as I have 2 kids that really enjoy fishing, and these reels are very nice and compact for them to use. They're light, easy to use, so it fits their hands perfectly. I'm also going to be stealing them every now and then to do some casting and some jigging. But yeah, let's get into the unboxing and see what we've got inside. So, first things first, we've got the old school LEXA HD 400 XSP. I've got very long names, these things. But let's have a look and see what's inside. Alright, we have got some literature here. We've got a little instruction manual, as well as, I think it should have all the components at the back, yeah, component list, so if anything breaks or anything goes missing, you know what the number is to order. Then we've got the reel. Let's have a good look at this bad boy. Alright, so LEXA HD 400 XSP, this one's got the 8.1 gear ratio. Alright, so it's a lovely looking reel. It comes in at about $299. That's a recommended sale price for this reel. Lovely dark blue aluminium construction. It weighs in at about 17.1 ounces. I'll put the grams down for you now in the video. The handle, it's got that EVA balanced power handle, very comfortable in the hand, very smooth. Going down to the drag system, it's got the star drag. So you hear the clicking now. That's how you increase your drag. And this little reel here has got a massive 25 pounds of drag packed into the small little body, and that's why it's so attractive these days to fishermen doing saltwater and deep sea fishing, as well as those going in rivers looking for bass and those kind of things. So it can actually pick up quite a lot of weight. Over here we've got the spool tensioner that sets your friction between the side of the body and the spool, and then of course your MagForce magnetic cast control system over there, so that helps to eliminate any spool overrun if you cast. And when you cast, very smooth action. This of course is how you engage the casting ability, or the free spool, and then as soon as you turn the handle, it goes back into gear. Got that little system in the front that's attached to your reeling, and that just winds your line up nice and neatly and evenly onto your spool, so you don't have to worry about guiding your line as you bring it in. So it really does make things a bit easier and neater as you carry on. The gearing is all stainless steel. It's got a stainless steel drive and pinion gear. The gear ratio, like we said, is 8.1 to 1 in this reel, and that equates to about 43 inches per crank, inches of line retrieval per crank. So I'll test that in a couple of minutes when I spool these reels. So it can take a lot of line. So that is the LEXA HD 400 XSP. All right. Behind door number 2, we've got the LEXA TW400P. Now this is the newer version. And we'll get into that pricing difference now. So let's open up and have a good look here. So once again, we've got some booklets going through the instructions and all those little things that we never look at. Parts list, once again, if you want to replace any parts, that's in there. And the reel is in there. So let's have a good look and see what this is. Now immediately I can feel a big difference in weight between the two, and that's one of the things that we're going to be looking at now. It's got more of a grayish purplish color, this one. Very nice, very neat looking. So just holding these two reels next to each other, we can see the difference in size, but there's definitely a weight difference between the two. Right, so once again, an all aluminium body. This one comes in at 12.2 ounces compared to the 17.1 of the older model. Definitely a smaller package that fits into the hand quite easily. Once again, that EVA power handle, but you can see this one is no longer counterbalanced like with the older model, but it is adjustable, so you can actually adjust the length of the handle, which will help you with your bigger fights. All right, so star drag in this one goes up to 28.7 pounds, where the previous version was 25 pounds, so 3 pound difference in your maximum drag on this reel. Once again, your spool adjuster over there, magnetic mag force system for your casting, so hopefully you won't get too many overruns on casting. Once again, how to engage the casting or the free spool, and then as soon as you turn the reel, it goes back into an anti-reverse mode. It cannot go backwards. All right, the line capacity once again in this one is about 260 yards of 40-pound braid, so a little bit less than the previous model. We'll test that now when I spool it up. Once again, all stainless steel gearing with a main drive and the pinion gears. The gear ratio is 6.3 to 1 in this reel. So it's a little bit more of a powerful reel, and you do sacrifice a little bit of line retrieval, so it only gets 33.5 inches of line retrieved per crank compared to 42, I think was the other one. So the higher your gear ratio goes, obviously the more line you get back per crank. Right, but here's one of the main differences when we look at the front of this reel compared to the HD. You can see the line guide is sort of an oval shape on the HD, and you've got this new T-wing system on the TW reel. So that's the T-wing, and as soon as you press this little button at the back, then that guy flips forward. All right, we'll get into why that happens now. Right, so when you engage your casting button at the back, that opens up a much wider area, so the line can actually pass through that aperture much easier, and it's got less friction on it. And Daiwa says this gives you about a 20% increase in your casting distance. So this is very important for guys wanting to cast far. Obviously, the less friction you have, the further your cast will go. little bit of a finicky or almost flimsy attachment in my opinion, but that might just be my opinion. I haven't really used it yet. Like I said, this is the first time I'm taking it out of the box. Once again, looking at the HD, that doesn't change with engaging that button at all, but you can definitely see a smaller opening there. So if your line is sort of wound up and it's coming from that angle and you're casting initially, and as the line does that, it's going to have some friction on the sides of that aperture there compared to a much wider area with a T-wing system. So it's a clever system. I just want to see how this holds up in the long run. So main differences, like I said, between these two reels and where the cost difference comes in. The size, they're essentially supposed to be the same sort of class or size of reel, but the T-wing one is much lighter. You can feel a significant difference in weight. The T-wing system, of course, massive improvement in opening size of that little aperture between old and new, but it is a little bit flimsy, but that might just be me. The drag also has increased from 25 to 28.7, so a little bit of a improved drag power on the new reel. But yeah, that's basically the difference. I'm going to spool these up now and just see what the line capacity really is. I'm going to be putting some Berkley Black Velvet. I'm going to put the braid on it, the 55 pound. It's got a very nice thin line size to it, so I should be getting all 300 meters of the spool on each of these reels. So let's quickly put that on and see what we get. Okay, so we're done spooling. Specifically because I'm going to be using it for bottom fishing, I'm going to be using it for jigging, so looking for bigger fish. I'm not going to go into a river and look for bass, definitely. Alright, so getting to the LEXA 400 HD, once again the older model, 25 pounds of drag, filled with about 270 meters of the 50 pound braid. What I did find it's a bit strange on this reel is this little arm here that goes between the two sides of the body. You can see if you fill up this reel, that is something to keep in mind, because it actually does get quite close to the spool. Difficult to see there, but that's going to be a limiting factor with this reel. If you're going to be putting on a fluorocarbon leader or anything like that, you might run into space issues if you put too much line on this. At the bottom there's decent clearance, and decent clearance at the little knob there, but once again that little arm there, that little bridging arm there, that gets the closest to the spool. Now for me it's not a big issue, because this one I'm going to be using connected to a swivel and a sinker and a hook setup. I'll get to the reasons why in a second. Okay, the TW, once again the smaller, lighter, newer version. Exactly the same amount of line I got onto this, 270 meters. But what you can appreciate here is that that little arm has actually been, I don't know if you can see it from this side, not really. It's actually further away than on the HD model. So at HD it gets quite close to the spool, where there's a lot more room between the spool and that little arm in the T-wing one. Alright, so that's important, because this one with the T-wing system that's supposedly better for my casting, I'm going to be putting a fluorocarbon leader with a FG knot onto this one, going onto spinners and jigs. So I want to get a couple of meters of a fluorocarbon leader on here, and that would be difficult with that amount of space on this one. So I'll have to drastically reduce my line capacity on this spool on the HD version if I were to put a nice couple of meters of fluorocarbon on there. And that, I think, is really the gist of it, why you would want the one above the other. If you're definitely into casting long distances, if you're going to be casting spoons, doing a lot of jigging, then I would put the extra couple of bucks down for the T-wing version or the TW version. Because theoretically that gives you a little bit of a further cast. Look at me just spinning up the whole spool there. But yeah, that little bridging arm between the two side plates, that's what's the limiting factor. Yes, it's got a little bit of a stronger drag, but I mean 3 pounds really doesn't make so big a difference. It's a much lighter reel, and I think that's a big selling point. If you're going to be jigging and casting the whole day, you're not going to get tired with this reel. Especially if you pair it to a nice light jigging or spinning rod, you're going to be going for hours without getting tired. So yeah, I'm very impressed with this guy. So this will be my casting and jigging reel, if I can get it away from the kids, that is. And this one would be mostly for bottom fishing, using sinkers, larger baits. It's a little bit more bulky, a little bit more heavy, so I'm not going to be chucking casts the whole day with it. I'm not going to be jigging with this one, so I'm not too worried about the space there. But yeah, if you were in the market purely for a long distance casting bait caster, specifically for casting spoons and for jigging, I would go with the new TW version. Much lighter. That little T-wing system, that's going to give you a bit more distance on your casts. But yeah, this is the real old school workhorse. It's a couple of years old now, this design, but it's a proven design, and a lot of guys are using this. If you look on YouTube, there's a lot of people using these reels to great effect, catching nice big yellowtail due to the nice drag system. So it can handle the big fish. Yeah, so I'll try to get some videos together in the near future of using both of these reels and post some videos so you guys can see them in action. But yeah, hopefully that will make you decide between the two models, if it's worth the extra about $100 US for the newer version versus the older one. Depends on what you want to use it for. All right.